Hey everyone, welcome to the Sharon the Red Baron show. As you know, this is my obsession listening to people's spiritual awakenings, whether it's, their great awakening, whether it's spiritual, religious, political, they see signs, synchronicities, they're leaving a church, whatever it is, I am obsessed, just so you know. And I would love to introduce you to Adam Canton as my guest. I'm really proud of Adam because he is being very open, raw, and real in how he had left the Mormon Church. And before I get going, Adam, I always love to ask people this. Do you believe in signs?
Do I believe in signs?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do. There was a minute where I didn't, but yes, I do absolutely.
I love it. And I totally understand. I felt the same way when things just keep happening. You're like, okay, come on, who's playing the joke on me, right?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have a quick story, like a really super quick story that maybe you could share with us that something happened and you're just,
I had a dream ish in the month of March 2022, and I experienced the dream in August of 2022.
okay.
6 months later, I had the exact visceral experience of being where I was in that dream 6 months earlier. And it was on the other side of the world in India.
Mm.
Impossible for me to have fabricated it.
That is so far out. I love it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that have happened to you though, huh?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the one that is stands out and it's easy to explain.
I love it. I love it because I mean, we people could just go on and on where you just hit this wall and you're like, all right, the big guy's talking to me. Someone's talking to me. It's just, and you're perfectly sane. And I
Yeah.
say this all the time to people, I think people are really awakening where it's like, why don't they teach this in the schools? But I think a lot of people are understanding why they don't teach it in schools,
Right.
like that little voice and so forth in your head. And so it's interesting. All right. So, what do you like to do for your hobbies and things like that? I just like to get to know people a little bit better
Yeah.
and for the audience.
I love to travel. I've been to every continent except Antarctica. I've been all
You don't
around.
want to go there right now because they had a volcano eruption, so you don't want to go
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. I love to paint. I paint acrylics. I'm not very good at it, and no one ever sees them, but I enjoy doing it. And
Oh, don't say that,
I
that they're
love to
works of
I love to
art.
surf, and I love doing yoga and meditation and things like that.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. It's so nice to learn a little bit about you because some people, everyone makes assumptions about everyone and we're going to break that mold. So I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
saying,
for sure. All right.
right?
Yeah.
So, let me ask you, so when was your true awakening, so to speak, within the Mormon Church, if I may ask? What was the big pivotal moment where
Yeah. I had I'd had kind of a rough um relationship with Mormonism growing up, in the sense that for me, I adopted a lot of shame and guilt. My family was incredibly orthodox, and so there was a lot of guilt and shame given to us for very what I would consider minor offenses and things like that.
like what? Do you mind me asking?
Like simple things like um, talking incredibly negatively about anyone that didn't wear a white shirt while passing the sacrament. And it was so rigid that if you didn't hold your left hand behind your back while you're passing the sacrament, that you shouldn't be worthy to be passing the sacrament. Like, that was the depth of intensity of the rules that my family would talk about on a regular basis. And me,
Oh, wow. So that was really kind of drilled into you, so to
yeah,
speak.
like we were the family that wore, you had to wear your Sunday clothes all day on Sunday because that's what the prophet did. And you
Mm.
couldn't grow facial hair because the prophet doesn't grow facial hair, and I follow the prophet, and so should you. And just those,
Hmm.
those types of like really heavinesses around the
Wow.
rigidity. And that for me shaped this mental image that if I did anything, God was constantly mad at me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what that felt like. You couldn't breathe. You
No,
always felt like you just couldn't be you in whatever way that is. I don't know.
and
That just,
it actually it did feel like that quite a bit. It and then
how are your grades and stuff growing up? Do you feel like it affected your grades or anything like that? Because I'm running into some people, it's like polar opposite stories. Either they did very, very well in school because it was taught, or it was too much.
I did mediocre. I was a strong B student. Um, I went all the way into a PhD program for economics, and so
Well,
like
clearly you did well.
yeah,
Don't
and
put yourself down. Clearly. Okay.
but
Yep.
I was never an A student. I didn't really work hard at it. I because of this overwhelm around shame, I would hit these like overwhelm thresholds where I'd hit a threshold. I'm so overwhelmed, I just completely shut down for a few days and not do any work, and then my
Oh,
grades would suffer, right?
yeah. Do you
And
have any physical like stressors or, things that would happen to your body because you would get so stressed by chance?
I'd
Like
have
headaches or just,
I didn't have anything like that, but I did go like in grad school, the my bishop recommended I go on bipolar medication. And
that reminds me of a South Park episode, right?
right.
I'm
And
sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but clearly we're on the same page of humor because we kind of understand and read between the lines.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, so that led to like some interesting like relationships with the church because now I'm on medication and I'm going to
Mm,
counseling, and then I'm starting to realize that it's this shame situation that is
yeah.
causing a lot of these mental and emotional problems that I'm experiencing.
And how
Yeah,
old were you? How old were you around this age? You're talking?
I'm in my late 20s by this time. I have three
Yeah.
kids. I'm in grad school. I'm on like a wide range of medications, and um I end up getting divorced because of some of these mental emotional problems.
Oh,
And
very sorry.
then I get remarried, and the problems are still there because the
So you're
problems
still in the church, is what you're saying.
I'm
So you,
still in the church.
okay. Okay.
And then I'm going to counseling and I'm learning what my definition of love is,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to learn to self-love, right? Like I'm trying to learn
Yeah.
self-love. And so I'm learning what love is. And they do that really. I'm starting to have questions. Like I'm reading about like, why are we judging people for alcohol when there's all these breweries that were started by Brigham Young and these early prophets? Why am
Hmm.
I being judged because I had a drink of alcohol? Why am I being judged and kept out of the temple when this George Albert guy is drinking brandy at night, but he's the prophet? And like, so I'm starting to have these type.
Rules for you, but not for me, or
Yeah,
however how that goes,
yeah.
right?
Do as
Yeah.
I say, not as I do type things.
Correct. Yeah.
And I'm seeing more and more of these just because I'm a student. I'm a PhD person, and I'm studying church history because I'm interested and I think it is the word of God. And I'm so excited I'm
Yeah.
going to study it, and I'm studying this stuff, and but I'm also an economics student. I'm paid and to see relationships.
How
And
things intertwine and how one thing starts from point A to point
yes.
B to equal C to get to a profitable and controlling. Oh, we're on the same page, brother.
And so I'm starting to see these disconnects.
Mhm.
And then I still remember it because I can still, if I want to, I can recall the feelings and the visceral feelings. I'm having all of these questions. I'm getting no responses, even from my stake president.
Why do they call them steak? Why do they call it a steakhouse? I'm curious.
It's meant to symbolize the tent stakes that hold up the tent of Israel.
Okay. Because when I think steakhouse, I think of like cutting meat and eating a steak.
Yeah.
All
No,
the homonyms that are out there make a lot more sense to me now. There's the
yeah.
son, as in your son, and then the sun, and
Yeah.
then, you get a shot, and then you can take a shot.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
where I'm going?
I
It's
do. I
all hidden.
do.
I love it. Okay, keep going. This is great.
And they did this really shitty thing where it goes against all of their own rules. So once again, I'm seeing them go against their own rules.
What did they
And
do?
they secretly put out a, a rule change that says if your parents are gay, you can't be baptized.
You know,
And the someone WikiLeaked it, and kids that were gay and parents that were gay, there were multiple suicides just in my community associated with this rule change. And
and why are they making rules? Because I thought that God loved all his children.
right,
Bingo.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
in
my
like
gosh.
even now I can feel my hair stand on end, because they were making a decision that negatively impacted a huge range of people. And it was very obvious to me that it was done in retaliation for what had happened with the Proposition 8 stuff in California.
And that is, if you could,
Proposition 8 was, I
for
don't
our
know the
viewers.
details. I apologize. It was something to do with same gender marriage in California, and the Mormon Church supported opposition to it, and like encouraged their people locally to canvass neighborhoods and publicly oppose it.
Wow.
And so this rule change that they had impacted lives to the point that people were dying, and there was like zero apology from them. And for me in that moment, I knew this is not love. It therefore cannot be God's church. Therefore, the whole house of cards came tumbling down so fast. And I didn't go to church ever again.
So you didn't even let them know you were leaving or anything? You just picked up and left? Did you get any exiled from friends, family, or?
Yeah, my mother and I didn't have a relationship for almost 3 years. I still don't talk to my sister.
I'm so sorry. Is
It
there any way around that? Because the more and more people that I have interviewed, why do they do this to the members? I mean, God is God. God loves all of his children. Why would he want to make someone feel so horrible for being able to think for themselves? And if you can't agree, everyone can agree to disagree. Why can't I just step away without? It's almost like bullying, in school when you think about it.
if you look at the way that the theology is constructed in their mythology, it's very heavy on, and it's been done intentionally to center on this idea or concept of an eternal family, where your family, you're always going to be with them in heaven. And that if you do not do these things that are prescribed by Mormonism, you don't have that ability to be with your family. And so it creates this lock and this tie into the organization that is intergenerational, and it is fear-based, right? Like, and their active leader, their prophet, actually talks about FOMO, like you should fear missing out on being with your family for eternity.
That's brainwashing. That is legit brainwashing.
And that incentive then allows them to then say, you have to give us 10% of your income, and if you don't, you can't make it into heaven. And then we can
That's
see
corporate. Oh my gosh. The Jesus that most people know in every type of esoteric religion knows that and I remember Jim Caviezel even saying this. He said that if people are making money off of God's word and Jesus Christ's word, they're a sham.
yeah. And
You should get your money back. I think everyone should get their money back. How much do you think that you have? Maybe you could use it now.
I wish I could. There is a class action lawsuit against them because of the Huntsman, who was the foreign ambassador to China, his kid Huntsman, he's suing them for misrepresenting how they use their funds because they have been hoarding it. They basically have hoarded, their account is worth, it's estimated $250 billion.
Oh, I bet you it's a lot more than that. I
They,
can almost guarantee you it's a lot more than that.
their fund is larger than the Russian government's hedge fund.
Don't you think they could solve all the problems in our country if they wanted to, help with that money and be generous? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. If
That
any of you are listening, that would be wonderful. And we could clean up all the veterans and the homeless people that, things happen to everyone and you shouldn't assume what people are going through. And yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow. So you left at age when that you just stepped away
that
about
was that
approximately?
I must have been 35 when I got to that point. And it
Okay.
was, for me, it was very, I was done after that.
Yeah.
Like I didn't go again. I tried to share my frustrations with my family, and that's what resulted in them not talking to me anymore for a period of time.
So
And
sorry.
and then basically nobody's ever asked me my opinion, why I left, why, like, you're really one of the very first people that's ever asked me why I left.
Really?
Yeah.
It's probably because they just don't want to open that box, if you know what I mean. They just don't want to even. I'm so sorry to hear that. That
And
really,
for
because
me, it
I
was
feel
very
like more and
complicated.
more people, they're saying the same thing, though, to a degree that, I mean, I use this as an example in so many of my interviews, but it's like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, You can't play with us because you're different. Or, I just have a problem with that. I just like simple. Why does everything have to be so complicated? It's like government, religion. Like, I don't know about you, but I just feel like there's, a few golden rules, so to speak, and that's about it. And taxes. It's all confusing, right?
And their list of rules, there was a Reddit user that had posted, he had gone through all of their doctrine and all of their rules, and he'd come up with, there's a list of something like 580 rules that Mormons have to follow in order to get into heaven. And
Shut up,
it
Adam.
is,
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. You can find it on
So are
Reddit.
you saying that all the
Talking and
leaders in the
fantastic.
church, though, they're not going to make it because they've been doing all the naughty things? Maybe that's called karma.
I don't know.
They're not going to make it. I'm just telling you right now. They're
So
not going to make it. I'm sorry. And I don't mean any disrespect to other people, but I just really do have a problem with people always telling another person what they need to do, how to look, how to dress. It's overkill now. That's
yeah,
my personal opinion.
yeah,
So,
it's been really unfortunate that they haven't been able to listen to what people have experienced and the pain that they've experienced, right? There's this rigidity around, like, they believe that they have the absolute truth. They believe they're the reinvented Catholic Church, right? They think they have the authority of God. And so there's not,
uh,
because of that mythology and theology, there's not room for them to admit blame or apologize even.
That's unreal. You know that anyone could go on YouTube and type in Jonathan Cahn. He's one of the top 5 biblical scholars of all time. And he openly says that the Vatican admits to changing the Bible over 300 times. Now, why would they do that? I don't know. What's your take?
Why would they do that? It's all about control, right? Like
I think so. I
you put
think
it like,
so.
right, because you have slave trade, you put in there that Jesus said, slaves, obey your master. And then it's really easy to be like, hey, we're just doing what Jesus said you got to do. Jesus said you got to obey your master, man. And then, oh, we
Wow.
need some money. Oh, shit, what are we going to do? Oh, let's slide in there that you have to pay your tithing. Okay, now we got a
Wow.
revenue source. And like all of
Oh,
the,
that's kind of creepy when you think about it. It just seems so slick, you know?
and all of it's intentional, right? Like, even like, like that Catholic, in the Catholic Church, they have that incense thing that they shake back
Mm-hmm.
and forth. That used to have cannabis in it. they used to intentionally put cannabis incense in those because it would give a feeling of euphoria when you were at church. That's how you get poor people to come to
Mm,
church. That's how you get
mm.
poor people to donate
That's
funds.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just need to get like some like Fritos or something to people to
Right.
snack on while they're doing it. Well, it's interesting
Uh,
that you said that because I had just learned, again, people can look it up, but when you take the bread and the wine, that's actually sacrificial and negative towards Christ, I've been hearing. So I
oh
don't
yeah.
know.
I hadn't
I've,
heard that
yeah,
one. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
that is interesting. And
Yeah.
also I was just thinking when you were talking about um just how they operate and so forth. I'm just going to tell you things are going to be changing in Utah very, very soon because they won't be able to shut people up. And there's way too many people. And hey, if they want to stick with the religion, I understand, but you cannot leave your brother and sister behind. You just can't. Doesn't matter.
Mm.
No one understands what, and I'm sure all those people have their own personal pains. And isn't it sad that people can't even just be themselves the way that God intended you to be instead of everyone looking and acting the same? That just drives me crazy, Adam. I have to tell you, there's like nothing
That was one of
original.
the early things that I struggled with was this idea that we all had to be the same, right? Like, why do we
Mhm.
all have to look identical on Sundays? Like, this makes no sense to me. Like, why do we
Yeah,
have to do all of this identical stuff?
yeah,
And even those questions early on, like there was no room for that when questioning parents or leaders. And just the rigidity around it doesn't seem to leave room for what I would consider a global perspective on God.
yeah, yeah.
Even
Wow.
the rigidity around how you define someone being worthy, it requires them to believe that God has a physical form, that he's a man that lives on a planet called Kolob, that has a kid named Jehovah who is Jesus. And if you don't believe that view of God, you're not worthy. And that
Just
just blows my
pure
mind.
brain, just pure. I'm sorry for anyone that's listening in the future. And please, we're open to being open here. So, we're
Yeah.
not attacking anyone in particular, but it just kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about, how, the Vatican changed the Bible over 300 times. So I like to ask simple questions to people, like, so what would happen? Where would we get our knowledge if the internet went down and it never went back up? Because now a lot of people don't have books. So to me, that would be easier to just, hey, let's just start from here. They'll never know. But then also, I mean, when you think about, I love simple. I think everyone has overcomplicated everything. But when you think about it, if you're taking this information out of the Bible or whatever, scripture, but you hit all the generations, the grandparents, the parents, the child, and you know what I'm saying? And once you can go through that, whoop, we'll just erase that. And then we can start again here. Oh, they're all gone. Let's just erase that. I mean, that's how simple it is to the way I look at it. Would you kind of agree with that to an extent?
Absolutely, 100%. We actively are seeing this happen in front of our eyes, that as the generation that experienced the Holocaust is dying off, we are already beginning to see Holocaust deniers. And
Yeah.
so it's just and we've already seen states that are removing the Holocaust from their curriculum. And so we
There you
know
go.
we know
Thanks
that
for validating what we were just talking about.
we know that these things happen, and that when there are incentives for power or for money, then you better
Not
fucking
for love, not for love.
not for love, then you
Yes.
better believe that it's going to be manipulated in some way.
Ah, can I ask you, how are you doing today? How are you taking care of yourself and your mind? Do you feel like you're in a better spot compared to where you
Yeah.
were before? Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking you are.
Yeah. So my journey led to one of an attempted suicide, which resulted in finding plant medicines as a remedy. And these plant medicines were cannabis, iboga, psilocybin, peyote, DMT, ayahuasca, and also combining that with a practice of meditation and yoga.
I
I
agree. Meditation, boy.
I now have people that come to me that are in that same place that I was in 10 years ago, asking me, "Hey, Adam, what's your secret? What are you doing? What's different?"
Mm-hmm.
And so now
Mm-hmm.
I actually guide people through that same process. And all I do is I say, "Here's the things that worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share one a week with you for 12 weeks. And then if it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, then let's
Mm-hmm.
keep talking and figure out how to help you through that transition, or
Yeah.
help you through that, whatever
So,
you're going through."
so can I ask, so did you go through a holistic doctor of some sort, or did you do your own research on top of it? I mean, clearly you're a PhD, you
Yeah,
know how to study. So I'm
yeah,
just curious, so for some validation for some people, because I don't think they realize that holistic doctors, boy, they can help you in ways that you never thought was possible. I mean, when I think about that now, it freaks me out now that I know a lot about big pharma and talking one-on-one with a handful of doctors and what they've learned. Um, I don't know about you, but I get creeped out putting synthetic chemical stuff in my body instead of just, doing a little something something. And boy, and it helps everything else, it helps with anxiety, depression. I mean, I'm not encouraging people to do it all day long, but if you need it for, you know what I mean? I mean, I would much rather have kids being in a controlled environment, smoking a little of that around their parents, lock it up, something, than them taking this synthetic stuff that just sits in their body. I mean, after you learn about this stuff, it's so creepy. I don't like it.
yeah,
You know? Do
yeah.
you
Like
feel
that,
the same way, kind of? Like I can't.
there was a lot of residual effects that I had when I was on the pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And
Oh, I
so
bet. Yeah.
for me, the transition to these plant medicines and the different ways to use them was really just showing me the power that my psyche does have to self-regulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
we're taught that we needed to rely on God and the church, and we needed to rely on big pharma. But through my experiences, I did have a holistic nurse that I was working with initially at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But she got
Good.
me started, but then it became my own research. It
Yep.
became researching, what does this plant do and what are the benefits of this, and going to Mexico to sit with this shaman, and going to Canada to
Yeah.
sit with this
Yeah.
shaman, and going to Spain to sit with a different shaman.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so exciting. I mean, do you feel like one thing that I found is after doing a lot of research myself is I don't think people clearly understand that, you look in your entertainment from, movies and so forth that depict times from a long time ago, and these, shamans and everyone are healing people. I don't think people really truly understand that that is how people heal themselves. Until, certain people moved into the picture and started putting everything in you and
Yeah,
popping pills. But I mean, people, I mean, I just want to encourage you to think about this and really start doing your research, because I kind of, I know this is mean, Adam. I think you'll appreciate this, but all those moms that are like, did you see her? And,
yeah,
and they're always ganging up on that one girl who stands out in the crowd. It's almost like
yeah,
they know it's like, but what amuses me is I think about, how some of these women just act like they have their shit together, but behind closed doors, they're just a little girl and they feel like they've been bullied and they don't want anyone. But I just find it just like, Mick Jagger was singing like mama's little pill there, I mean, you're no different than someone smoking that, but the people that are doing this are smarter because one, it's cheaper and there's way more benefits, and you're not leaving any bad chemicals and synthetic things in your body. I mean, I get a kick out of those kind of women because I can pick them out in a crowd And it's almost like the last few years, they know to stay away from me because I'm not mean. I will just call them out on their insecurity. I zone right in, but I don't say anything in a mean way. I say something to make them think about their behavior. And that's how I like to always leave it off. Just,
Yeah,
but,
that's
but
a fun way to deal with it.
wow, that is just so exciting. All that stuff you've been doing and meditation. I could not agree with you more. I think you can tell I'm a pretty high strung person, but when I get in that meditative state, it's like a whole nother feeling. And
Yeah,
if you're, for people that listen to this, if you're a high strung person and you don't think you can, I didn't think I could. And when you get in the zone, it's actually pretty simple. It's just a lot of people just, I coined this whole idea, this whole phrase, and maybe it'll resonate with you, Adam. So I thought about how our thoughts are literally a popcorn kernel, where when soon as you wake up, you're like, oh my gosh, and you just jump out of bed, you hit that annoying alarm. I freaking hate alarms. And you're like, I gotta run the kids. What am I gonna wear for work? I gotta check my email. Oh, I gotta do like for every thought, you got all this popcorn going pop, 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 pop in your head. It has nowhere to go unless you meditate. That's my perspective. And
yeah,
then
that's a
you
really
can,
good one. I like it.
do you? Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the only way I could explain it because you just within 15 minutes of your day, the average person is just so overwhelmed. Think about it. I mean, they're just surviving. It's like, okay, I'm going to come back here tonight. And if I'm lucky, I might have time to run to the grocery store, you know. And do you also find it's so backwards where everyone spends more time at their work and job and buying materialistic things rather than spending the time with their families? Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? It seems like people
yeah,
are at work 70% of the time and they only have like 30% of the time to spend with their families. It just
yeah.
does that even make sense? I just
To me, it actually doesn't, and to my wife, it doesn't. Like we,
same here. Yeah.
we started a small business together so that we could spend more time together because it doesn't make sense to us why we would spend so much time apart when we've made this decision to be the primary ones that we spend time together with. And
Yeah.
so
I
for us,
agree.
it's both of our third relationships. And so it was a chance to decide, like, do we want to go our different ways, come back exhausted to one another, maybe argue right before we get to the weekend, not talk to each other on the weekend.
Yeah, like the silent treatment. That's the
Right.
worst. I'm not
And then
talking
do
to
the
you.
same process over and over again, or do we want to like really question, like, what are we doing, why are we doing it? And
Yeah.
we've built a life that works for us, that is somewhat unconventional, that doesn't follow the 9 to 5 model, and that
You
it
seem pretty chilled and pretty happy though. I think you're doing something right. Because
it, wa-
anyone else you
it
talk to, people, the average person I talk to, they're just so stressed out. They are so stressed out. It makes me sad for them it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I've said this in a few of my interviews, but it's just something that sticks with me. It's just, it's just the way things are. You hear that in all your entertainment. It's just the way things are. That's what
yeah,
they tell you, or, with your taxes. I've been learning a lot about taxes and all that. There's a lot of information. People are just going to be like, I want my money back. Give me my money back so I can start fresh, right? But it just seems like everyone is just anxiety driven now. It's really kind of scary to me how people they just go off the deep end so quickly without thinking their words before they hurt someone and before they, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a shift coming, and we're not quite there, but there's this shift that's gonna happen that's similar to maybe like in the 60s, or maybe at the end of World War II, where like the society is gonna hit this threshold of pain where we're like, enough is enough. Like
Mhm.
the financial crises, the societal crises, the violence locally and internationally,
It's
the
scary. It
the
really is.
the pain that we feel in ourselves and in our society. It'll hit this point, and the quote unquote, the light workers or those that are trying to help, those will be the ones that'll be like, come on, we can do it.
It was only written in every esoteric religion, the Hopi prophecy, everything. I mean,
right, yeah.
I love it. And I think you're spot on, because that is where it's going. I feel it, you feel it. And
yeah.
and so here's a question for you, maybe flipping it. So do you feel that the pain and suffering that you went through within the church and throughout your life has prepared you for what many are calling the Great Awakening right here, right now? It's not just everyday people, it's like the biblical scholars. Do you feel like it has gotten you prepared for now? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. The easy answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is I've seen a direct relationship between the experiences that I've had, the things and the tools that I had to do to get through that. And
I
then
can't imagine how long.
a short period of time, a client or a friend or someone I care about comes to me with almost the identical thing, and I have to help them navigate through it. And I've directly seen people's lives be saved as a result.
Oh, I completely believe it, because I know this may sound not right to some people, but just from what I've heard from people, there are a lot of good counselors out there, right? But I also feel like there's a lot of counselors out there that were quote unquote trained. I mean, there was one time, I'm gonna leave names out of it, but someone had said to me that was getting some counseling, just kind of making a mom statement, don't even remember what it was, but had to call someone out on their stuff. And they said, why don't you mind your own business? This is a younger person. Why don't you mind your own business and worry about you? And I said, whoa, come again? I said, wait a minute, who's the adult here? And I'm trying to teach you a life lesson. And they said, yeah, that's what my counselor told me to say to adults when they want to get on me or whatever. And I said, wow, that's a really good counselor. Not, it's just kind of messed up. But what I'm finding is I've been really listening to a lot of people, and they are going the spiritual route of counseling, because I think once they put that preconceived notion that, it's all a bunch of hippies and they're just all high all the time and da, da, da. No, there's duality in that from my perspective. High means high and high. Like, you're just enlightening yourself finally, that you can grow to love yourself. And to some people, that sounds crazy, because in society and entertainment, you're taught that that sounds silly, but when it's actually true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I do feel that, a lot of people that have gone to the council, the good ones say right up front, I'm not here to change you or make you like me. I'm simply here to help you with some tools that I found that's not the conventional way, that's a lot more simple and more loving. And I think everyone has to kind of love themselves a little and cut themselves a break, because I think a lot of us, I mean, it's just insane how many people are awakening. Just like everything you've been taught is almost a lie, It really, when you think about it.
It is feeling like most of that early childhood education, there's not a lot of foundation there. And so there's a lot. You had referenced earlier people that are angry, and I think that's part of the reason why some of these people are so angry, is because they've lost that foundation that they once had.
And I don't think a lot of people were able to truly be a child and express. They were just kind of told, oh, no. Do you want to be a secretary, a plane attendant? It's like, oh, go with the safe thing. You got to pay your bills. And to me, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's torture for someone that's a creative on the inside, where it's like, oh, this is it. This is all. Instead of just kind of like, hey, have your job, but maybe start pursuing your passion. And I'm a believer that you put your time in, it's going to manifest eventually, because that's what you truly love. And people see that,
That's the philosophy that I've adopted with these businesses that I have, and trying to give back and just follow my passion, and it'll work itself out.
Oh, it will. I'm very excited for you. Things are changing. It just I love it. I love it. I love it. And I do feel like things are going to get a lot worse out there, if you know what I'm saying. And I think that a lot of people are going to start gravitating to people like you because they're really and you've already been taught, humility. You know what it feels like to be shit on, and not and so I feel like that's with a lot of people in life, they're here for a reason. And when people actually go down the rabbit hole on religion, they're gonna find that you know where I'm going with this. So, Adam, do you have any words of encouragement for people on, what's happening in this world or, contemplating leaving the church or anything? Go for it.
My my advice for anybody is always to find those tools and techniques that are yours that help you feel balanced in you, whatever that word means for you. For
Like
me,
maybe something happy, something they like to do, like some meditation could be golf, it could be fishing, it could be
it could be anything. It could be anything that gets you to a state of internal peace and contentment, feeling connected to yourself and to your family.
yeah,
Everybody has those moments where they feel those emotions of balance, of peace, of connectedness. And
yeah.
to regularly do those activities, whether it be golf, fishing,
Yeah, just
paper
anything that
kite
makes them.
flying, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It could be jumping on the trampoline with your child.
Yeah.
Everybody's thing is different. But the higher the frequency you spend in those states of peace and joy, the easier it is to identify those things that get you there. And if
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
and then
Why
if
can't
you
I
get
feel like this all the time,
right, right, right.
Right? Oh, work again. Yeah, yeah.
And if you make your decisions from that place of peace and contentment, then more often than not, you'll be satisfied with the outcome.
I do. That's very, very wise.
And so
A wise outlook on it. I do.
that's that's my
Yeah.
advice.
I agree. I think some people just get to this point in life where sometimes it seems like it's more work to go and do those things. So they just kind of are like, I got too much to do. I have too much to get caught up. Like, stop and drop everything. When
Yeah,
you start saying that, I feel like that's a point where people need to stop, reevaluate, and ask why you can never take that break for yourself. And then
yeah,
I think they start talking to themselves, why is this? What, like going to a counselor, why do I feel this way? What happened when I was younger? How did it get triggered? And, how did I start acting after? It's just, I feel like so many, like we've always heard in our entertainment, once again, in our music, it's in here. No one else is going to find it for you except yourself. So
yeah,
if you want to be like everyone else, that's fine and dandy. Good luck searching for yourself because you're still not going to find yourself. Does that
yeah.
make sense? Do you agree?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't, a lot of us, like even me, like when I was in that heavy time, I was distracting myself with every possible thing there was, from
Yeah.
alcohol to electronics to activities to travel to sports.
Mhm.
Then it's not until I spend time alone and quiet by myself in these peaceful moments, doing whatever it is,
Yeah.
that I begin to realize, who am I actually, and why do I have worth, and how do I make a positive contribution to this world, and why do I feel shitty about these things and not these things? And I don't think we spend enough time being self-reflective. And if
I
we really
agree.
were, we'd be treating each other the way we want to be treated. And if everybody was doing that, then I guarantee you we wouldn't be having these issues that we're having.
I could not have said it better myself. And any church, it doesn't matter, any church, and this is not dissing the big guy upstairs whatsoever. But if people are still going to church and they're still unfriending people, whatever church, over just disagreeing, that's pretty sad. Like, I think people should really sit with their actions to see how they look outside of their little clicky, clicky sheeple people. Does that make sense? Like, they just really not trying to be mean, but sometimes you just have to throw it out there. Like, see how other people see you on the outside. So if you're a bully, people are not going to want to be their true selves, and they don't want to, you know what I mean? Or if you're, it's just, let's just think before you could really make someone's life go the wrong way. And that's the thing. Words hurt people.
Yeah,
And people just never know. And it happens to men too, clearly, right? They just hide it a little better, I think. Right?
we have to.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for being so open. And can I ask you where people can find you if your story resonates with them? Like, are you on Facebook or?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. You can find me if you search for Dudes Need Dudes or Dudes Tribe.
I love it. I love it. That is so awesome. All I'm saying is I think every woman from the future on, they want a very spiritually connected, grounded man who's loving, kind, strong, is the manly thing. And enough of these Joe jocks like, oh, and just like, I know that sounds awful, but I think women, when they get out of that whole Hollywood type persona of the perfect guy or whatever, I actually feel like it's opposite. Like, it's the smart guys, it's it's the non-Joe jocks guys, not dissing the jocks, because I have a lot of jock friends and there are a lot of good guys out there. But do you know what I'm trying to say? That interpretation of the guy who just is like, woman, go get me my food because I said so. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, who wants to be treated like that?
Right. You need to be, all the dudes need to be a little self-reflective if they're gonna be with women that they value, right? Like,
I was just going to say, same thing for women. I mean, does a guy want his woman to look good? Well, of course, but there's a degree where, gosh, do I want her to look like every other chick? Because if anyhow, I could have said something wrong, but I won't. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for being so raw and real. I very much love this interview. I
thank
found
you
it
very
very,
much.
very intriguing. And please keep doing what you're doing and don't stop, because you can feel it. It's coming.
Yeah, it is.
It's coming. And I do want to let viewers know that I've got a handful of people. We're working on something that's pretty big in Utah. There are a lot of support groups and there are a lot of spiritual support groups, but what we're going to be doing is packing rooms full of people having their spiritual awakening stories, whether it's leaving church, political, you name it. There's not going to be any judgment at all. And it's just kind of contagious. It's, a lot of, I don't know how to explain it, but when you saw the response I got just by asking that question, there's clearly a lot of people that are having their awakening right now. And I feel like instead of people feeling secluded and alone because they've been alone for so long in their head for whatever reason, you had to go through whatever you went through, because if you're getting there and you're starting to understand things, you want a whole new soul tribe family instead of the ones that keep bringing you down. And take the experiences that you had and rise and shine, because it's happening and I'm so excited. And these are going to be the new type of how people communicate instead of sitting in front of the boob tube after a long day at work, unless they know how to decode through numerology. But other than that, enjoy, come visit us and meet our future guests. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Adam. You have a great day. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.